Welcome to the Emerson Exchange Studios. I'm Jim Cunningham, your host. I'm here with Peter Zornio, Chief Technology Officer, and we're going to talk about IT-OT convergence.
Good morning, Jim.
Good morning to you. Nice to see you, Peter.
Good to be seen.
Okay, IT-OT convergence. That's a big buzz phrase, but what is it exactly?
Okay, well, let's start with maybe some definitions. So when we say IT, or information technology, we're talking about those professionals that work on the computer systems and networks that usually power kind of the enterprise level infrastructure in a company. So the ERP systems, the email systems, kind of fundamental overall storage, really kind of stuff that most of us encounter and think of as IT in our daily jobs.
Okay.
OT, or operational technology, refers to all the technology and networking that actually runs the process or hybrid facilities that are our typical customers. So these are things like distributed control systems or PLCs or historians. These are products and technology that really are specific to running the plants, running the factories that are producing the product. So there's kind of a big split here in terms of what the function's going to be for the technology.
Okay. So is this a new organizational challenge?
Well, it's actually not a new challenge. It really got started in the 90s when the folks that work in the IT world started to introduce their type of technology, Windows computers and Ethernet networking, into the OT world, because that technology serves a much larger market. It was much more cost effective, and it was capable of doing many of the functions that were needed in OT. So the technology that historically had been used only in one realm was starting to be introduced into the other. And then that kind of grew a little organizational divide as to who actually owned those technologies. And then there's a lot of concerns around things like security,
Sure.
because the OT networks are typically more restrictive. You only want a selected number of people working on them because they're critical to the operation of the facility.
All right. So how is industrial IoT changing that?
Well, what is changing is that I think in the original sort of IT-OT separation, what's happened over the last 15 or 20 years is in most places, those organizations have kind of kept mostly into their own domains and built connections to each other where they need to, but they both sort of stay on each side of the fence, and they set up the right little connections that they need to have to get the data that needs to go back and forth. But when we look at industrial IoT and we look at using things like cloud computing technology or analytics and having a lot more data that needs to actually get into that realm, suddenly that's not going to be sufficient. We actually need to see a much deeper integration of those two organizations if we're going to achieve the benefits that are promised by industrial IoT.
All right. So how is Emerson helping customers with this?
Great question. Obviously, we're a big supplier of OT technology, so we have a large portfolio of OT technology, especially when we talk about industrial IoT with our plant web digital ecosystem.
Right.
But more recently, what we've done is to tackle that organizational issue more head on by establishing an operational consulting organization that can actually go in and work with customers and work with both groups and get them to see that, hey, really the other guy's not so bad, and that, they could be integrated together and really kind of work to bring together the organizations in the customer's facility so that we can achieve the maximum output that we could by really having that convergence occur.
Yeah, that's all very fascinating stuff. I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us here at the
My pleasure.
Emerson Exchange Studios, Peter. Folks, we want to thank you too, and you can find out more at emerson.com.